In this video, I'm gonna show you how to mix a gray in watercolor. Let's dive right in. Feel free to use any materials you have on hand. I'll list the materials I'm using in the description below. I'm gonna show you two different ways to mix gray. The first way is to mix it from an existing black that you have. In my case, for my black, I'm using neutral tint from Daniel Smith. The second way is to mix it yourself from scratch using primary colors, yellow, red, and blue. In my case, I'm using the warm primaries from the Daniel Smith Essentials set. So for my yellow, I'm using New Gamboge. For my red, I'm using Pyrrole Scarlet. And for my blue, I'm using French Ultramarine. You can substitute equivalent colors that you have on hand. Just keep in mind that your results may vary depending on which primaries you use. So if you're having problems getting the results that you want, try getting the Daniel Smith Essentials set so you can get a similar result. For my brush, I'm using my Princeton Heritage 4050 round 12. For my paper, I'm using Arches 100% cotton paper, and I just cut it into a smaller size. This is a 2.5 by 3.5 inch size, so about the size of a trading card. I like to have it in this size so I can use it as a swatch card that I can use as a reference later on. So I already have my neutral tint in the middle of my palette. This is what I'm using as a black. I like using neutral tint because it's a black that doesn't have a color bias. It's neutral, so it doesn't have a warm undertone or a cool undertone, and it's transparent, so it's a good mixer for other colors. So first, I'm gonna wet my brush in water and just squeeze out the water. So the more water you have in your brush, the lighter the gray is gonna be. So basically in watercolor, to get a gray, all you have to do is add water to black. Because in watercolor, we're using water as our white. So if we add water to black, it becomes lighter and becomes gray. So we're just gonna grab the black and I'm just gonna put it here. So see how dark that is? So that's a really dark black or gray. So I'm gonna just add water to it, but I'm grabbing water from my water jar. And the more you water it down, the lighter it's gonna be. So that's a bit lighter. And if I water it more, it will be even lighter. So how I'm picking up water from my water jar is I just dip my brush into the water jar and the brush soaks up the water, and then you can put it in your palette and it adds into the paint. So the more water you add, the lighter the paint gets. You just want to make sure you squeeze out the excess water from your paintbrush so that your paint is not puddly. So depending on how much water we add, it gets lighter and lighter and lighter. So if you have a swatch like this, you can save this as a reference. And then later on in the future, if you're painting and you're trying to decide how light your color should be, then you can compare to this swatch and then you can say, oh, I need this kind of dark gray or this kind of dark gray or maybe a little bit lighter gray or a really light one. And of course with watercolor, you can make as many shades in between as you need. So that's one way to mix gray in watercolor. The other way is to mix it from the primaries. We'll mix the primary colors together to make a black, and then we'll add water to lighten it up to make a gray. If you need more information about how to mix black from primary colors, I made a video showing how to mix black from primary colors, and I'll link it in the description below. To mix a black or a gray in watercolor, you want to mix roughly equal parts of yellow, red, and blue. So basically the ratio is 1/3 yellow, 1/3 red, and 1/3 blue. So when I say roughly equal, I don't mean that they're equal in weight or in volume. In watercolor, it's more about equal in strength. The blue pigments are really strong usually. The red are kind of medium strength. and the yellows are usually weaker. So if you try to mix it equal volume, it will be overwhelmingly blue. So what you want to do is try to eyeball it and use your eyes to balance out the equality of the colors, if that makes sense. So not a literal equal. So I'm just gonna start by grabbing some yellow into my palette. And because yellow is a weaker color, you want a lot more yellow than the other colors. And then I'm just gonna rinse my brush and grab some red. So you don't want too much red because it's gonna overpower the yellow. But when you add yellow to red, it becomes an orange. Again, I'm gonna rinse my brush and we're gonna add in a third color, which is blue. So on the color wheel, yellow plus red equals orange, right here in the middle. And the opposite color of orange in the color wheel is blue. So the complementary color of orange is blue. When you add the color to its complementary color, it will become a neutral. So it might become a black, a gray, or a brown, depending on the ratio and how much water you put. So I'm gonna add blue to the orange to neutralize it. So you don't want a lot of blue because blue is a very overwhelming color, so you want to just add it a little bit at a time. So that looks like a gray to me. It's a little bit on the warm side. Actually, it's fine. So when you add these colors together, they become a black or a gray depending on how much water you add to it. We're gonna swatch it out here. We actually started with a little bit lighter gray this time, but that's okay. I'm just gonna swatch it anyway. So that's what that looks like. So it's kind of a dark gray, and it actually turned out a little bit warmer than this other color, and we can add more blue to it if we want it to be a little bit cooler. So let me do that. So it's a little bit cooler, or at least a little bit more neutral. And then I'm just gonna add some more water to it to lighten it up. And then I'm just gonna keep adding water like how we did before, just to get it to be lighter. So I'm just trying to make sure there's like some variances between how these look, so they're kind of not too similar. So in the Daniel Smith Essentials set, the French Ultramarine is a granulating color. So when you use French Ultramarine as part of your mix, you'll see some texture in there. So if you want texture in your mixes, French Ultramarine is a good one to use. But if you don't want the texture, you can use Phthalo Blue instead, which is a non-granulating color. And that's also part of the Daniel Smith Essentials set. So I'm gonna do another mix of gray. One of the good things about mixing your own gray is you can control the undertone or the bias of the color, so you can have it be more neutral or more cool or more warm. If you want to make it more warm, you can add more yellow or more red to your mix. So if you want to make it more cool, you just want to add a little bit more blue to your mix. So that looks pretty neutral to me. And I'm just going to grab it and I'm just going to put it on this other side so you can compare. So on this side, I'm going to add a little bit more blue. And you don't want to add too much because you don't want a blue, but you just want like a subtle blue. So that's still gray to me, but it's just a little bit on the bluer side, like a bluish gray. So this one is just with yellow added, so more yellow. So that's a more yellow gray. And then now I'm gonna add more red. So that's kind of turned brown a little bit, so I'm just gonna add a little bit more blue just to counteract that brown. Okay. If you found this helpful, make sure you like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel to learn more about colors and color mixing. Thank you so much for watching.